In 2012, one of the biggest quarterback prospects of all time came along. That was Andrew Luck, who we all knew was going to be selected first overall. But there was another really good quarterback prospect that year in RG3, and some people loved him so much they were willing to trade up several first-round picks to get him. Those people worked for the Washington Redskins organization. They decided to make one of the most historic flops of a trade of all time. So I figured let's give a retrospective and talk about what went disastrously wrong trading up for a quarterback that did not work out, and trading down for a quarterback and completely blundering on all of the picks. This is really the Rams story and how they were not able to capitalize on a ton of draft capital. So this was the trade. The Washington Redskins got RG3, who, hey, if he played as well as he did his rookie year for his entire career, they would have given up 10 first-round picks for him, right? But obviously, after, it took him a while, got off to a hot start, but really kind of fell off a cliff pretty quickly there with injuries being a big part of it. But who did they give up to get him? Well, first, they gave up the 2012 6th overall pick, which was eventually used on Morris Claiborne of the Dallas Cowboys. Again, another trade happened there. In 2012, they drafted Janoris Jenkins, who was definitely a solid player for, played well for over a decade. Also, the 2013 pick was, 22nd overall was what it ended up being, where they selected, actually they didn't select, the Falcons selected Desmond Trufant, and then in 2014, it ended up being the 2nd overall pick, which feels pretty great. Unfortunately, all they got was Greg Robinson from it, so that one was, a bit of a bust there. But okay, Janoris Jenkins, that's a solid, 2nd round pick for sure. What did they get out of the other multiple first-round trades that they ended up making? Well, in the Morris Claiborne trade, they traded back to pick 14, where they selected Michael Brockers, and also got pick 45, which was used on Alshon Jeffrey. You feel pretty great about this trade if you're a Rams fan. I mean, Brockers was pretty good for them, and Alshon Jeffrey was great. The issue, of course, they were not the ones who selected Alshon Jeffrey. They had traded that pick to the Bears. That trade was Alshon Jeffrey at pick 45 for pick 50 and pick 150, which they used on Isaiah Pead and Rokavius Watkins. In hindsight, maybe would have rather had Alshon Jeffrey, I think is fair to say. The other trade, the Desmond Trufant trade. So the Falcons got Desmond Trufant at pick 22. They also got a 7th round pick that they used on Akeem King in that selection. As for the Rams, they got Alec Ogletree, who was a solid linebacker for a bit. Stedman Bailey, and then Chris Jones was drafted by Houston. And no, not that Chris Jones. I want to specify, not the one who plays for Kansas City right now. Different Chris Jones, interior defensive lineman. That's gotta be a bummer, right? If you make the NFL, you feel good about yourself, and then some superstar makes the NFL with your exact same name. Like that's a bit of a bummer. I'd probably be disappointed if some YouTuber named Jackson Kruger had like way more success than me. That'd probably bum me out a little bit. So I feel you, Houston, Chris Jones. As for that selection, they actually, they traded up to get Zach Stacy, so they gave up Michael Rivera and Chris Jones, which I'm sure they're very broken up about. So this was the overall list. This is who they gave up, and obviously the big name is still RG3 in this, but they also gave up Alshon Jeffrey and Desmond Trufant in this entire, trade structure here. So they gave up some valuable pieces, or I guess I should say, they gave up some picks that ended up becoming valuable players, and maybe it's a good example of why it's not necessarily about the trade itself, but sometimes about the actual, draft picks you make with that trade. Because again, they could have gotten Alshon Jeffrey, they chose not to. They could have gotten Desmond Trufant, they chose not to. I guess they could have gotten RG3 too, but they chose to trade that pick away, which is what this whole video is about. So, okay, RG3 who had a good year, and then multiple good players. Well, this is who the Rams got back. Janoris Jenkins, who again, solid player. Alec Ogletree, solid player. Michael Brockers, solid player. But that's really kind of it. They did not get a ton of really good value here by the, in this situation, which is definitely a bit of a disappointment when you think about the insane trade that you made. I mean, you got 3 first-round picks, a 6th overall pick, and a 2nd overall pick were 2 of those picks. This should have been an all-time great trade. This could have been a dynasty-creating trade. This is Herschel Walker 2.0, and instead, it ended up just being a kind of a bust, which is just kind of crazy to think about. Also, if you're curious about how Jenkins did when he was with the Rams, he played well for them. He was there for 4 years and then eventually left in free agency. So he didn't stay there for a particularly long time. So he only got the 4 years of value out of that. But still, there's certainly some value there. From Washington's perspective, if RG3 hit, they would have felt great about this. That's all the goal was to get RG3 to hit. Unfortunately, he did for a second and then didn't. But from the Rams' perspective, this story actually kind of has a happy ending. Their GM at the time is still their GM. He, after making this move, I think clearly realized that getting a bunch of draft picks is not as valuable as it might seem on paper, because it's just so hard to make sure that you can actually turn those draft picks into star players. So what he decided to do instead was trade away first round picks constantly. I mean, you think about it, the last first round pick from this trade was in 2014. So they still drafted in 2015 and 2016, but then 2017, they were the ones who traded up for Jared Goff to select. Actually, that was in 2016, excuse me. So they only had one more draft pick before they said, okay, we're going to be the ones trading up. They select Jared Goff first overall in 2016, and they haven't selected in the first round since then. So they kind of realized after this was a bust, basically, hey, we don't want to be the team trading down. We want to be the team trading up, or just trading those players away in general. A first round pick, they just don't think is that valuable. They think that getting a player is much more valuable than getting a first round pick. And even if, that player is only there for a few years, a lot of first round picks are only there for 4 years before they become, either, go somewhere else, or you have to pay them, which then you lose a lot of the value of them. So I kind of understand the logic behind it, and just kind of an interesting origin story for the Rams to have this kind of thing blow up in their face, where they could have, you think could have potentially created a dynasty with the draft capital that they had, and instead just miss after miss after miss. But still, they were able to, because of that miss, because of that lesson that they learned the hard way, kind of did a complete 180 and won a Super Bowl because of it. So good for them. Sorry, Washington fans, at least you're not named the Redskins anymore. That's the good news for you. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.